This is CityCast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. Sophia, Colin, what is a travel destination that you've been to that you thought was way better than expected?
If you really love bridges, might I recommend going from Pittsburgh to Venice?
Did you not expect that to be pretty?
Well, okay, I expected it to be beautiful, but I did not expect to enjoy it as much because I was like, oh, it looks super crowded and touristy, which, you know, there was stuff we wanted to do. But I found that, you know, if you go off the main square a little bit, there's so many parks, there's so many like little squares where you can actually relax. I think that's the part that surprised me. Like, I just got off the plane. I was expecting go, go, go. And then I was like, oh, I can actually just sit down with a pastry and look at the trees.
That's nice. Colin, what about you?
I think for me, it might be Portugal. And it's not because I didn't expect it would be beautiful, which it absolutely was, but I was just absolutely gobsmacked at the people. They were so friendly and their English was so good. Like in Spain, because there's so much Spanish language media, their English isn't as, I would say, sophisticated. But in Portugal, people were like asking me philosophical questions while they were serving me like delicious like fried cod and wonderful like fish soup and stuff. And I just truly had such a good like human experience in Portugal. So definitely recommend if you're looking for a vacation where you can actually talk to folks. Okay,
y'all both went international. I had the bottom of the barrel expectations for Colonial Williamsburg because I needed like a stopover on the way further south. And so I did that on a solo trip once. It was like a Tuesday morning, not a holiday, nothing special. I would say only like half the exhibits were even open because it was just sort of an odd time to be there. It was great. It was a great way to experience at least that specific kind of kitsch because I could just read the signs in peace, scroll things on my phone while I was doing it. If I needed more information, God knows there's plenty out there. But it was like a nice solo, like side quest on the way to something else. And I really didn't think, I didn't expect a lot, but it was way better than I thought it would be.
That definitely seems like one of those places you would want to visit on a weekday, kind of like Kennywood, where it's just like you're fighting the crowds a little bit less.
Yeah, for sure. I am with CityCast Pittsburgh contributors, forever friend of the pod, Sophia Lowe, and City Paper managing editor, Colin Williams. We're going to be talking about the latest Penn State scandal. I cannot get over the price of drugs these days. New or at least more public scrutiny for e-scooters and e-bikes in our region, plus your win, loss, and thing to know. And then on today's members only bonus segment, we're going to be talking about the greatest vacation that Colin has ever had. I'm kidding. I think I'm kidding. But Colin does have a drivable recommendation for a fun yet familiar way to get out of town. And one more reminder that the only way to access our bonus segment is by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor. It is a great time to jump in because today is our last day to get in on some of that neighbors only classic vintage bonus merch.
CityCast is cleaning out the closet, so get your diner-style mugs, get those tote bags. It's back to school season, so this is perfect timing.
Oxford pennant. It's on my desk.
Oh,
I haven't hung it up yet, shamefully, but
mine's
honestly,
not hung up
it kind of
either.
brightens up my desk, too.
Yeah, I like having it over here.
These would make great gifts for the teacher in your life, given that it's back to school season.
That's true.
Smart.
Yeah, if you have Pittsburgh pride, of course we all do. It's a nice way to show it, and you get to choose your own adventure right now because we have a little bit of stuff left over. That said, it's like not much. Our folks with the membership side, they say that we are down to our last couple items. So if this is something that is exciting to you, if you want to skip the ads, if you would like to hear the bonus segments on Fridays, check it out. It's at membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. On to the news. Penn State fraternities are in trouble again. Why are we here? Why are we here again, Colin?
I have that same question. This is really quite the twist on the typical frat hazing story that you would hear, in that several Penn State fraternities have been implicated in being part of a cocaine trafficking ring.
A large one.
Yeah, this sounds by all accounts to have been a fairly sophisticated operation, although I will say a notable exception there is the level of security that these folks took. So one of the ringleaders, Agostino Abatiello, apparently was caught begging people not to talk about his involvement, and he's one of 14 people that were charged in total. The 14th, by the way, has a Pittsburgh connection, which is a kind of interesting wrinkle to this whole story. But these charges are kind of all over the place. Abatiello is one of the members of 2 frats that basically have been suspended. So Sigma Chi has been suspended since 2021, and now Delta Upsilon is on interim suspension while the university gets to the whole bottom of this.
Sorry, I haven't recovered from Upsilon.
Upsilon.
It feels correct. It feels correct in this moment. Please keep going.
It really does. But so these 2 frats were part of this coke trafficking ring and were apparently basically hazing pledges to be cutting drugs, bagging them up.
And just to underscore that was the pledge activity. Like when you go Greek or whatever, often there are things, there are rituals, whatever. It tends to be more extreme for frats than sororities, but there are rules governing this stuff. Like you are not allowed to ask people to do something illegal, dangerous. Like the Greek life groups usually have their own rules. Obviously, you also have to follow the law. This is just wild to me that was the activity that they gave, presumably incoming freshmen. I would like you to stuff baggies with cocaine. Can you imagine?
It's so businesslike.
Also, they were traveling for this cocaine too. Agostino, I'm going to mess up his name, but the guy you mentioned,
you could use
Colin.
the one I keep seeing on social media, Pablo Pledgescobar.
Pablo Pledgescobar.
So that dude, he's one of the ringleaders. He, it sounds like would go to Philly and New York to get this cocaine and then bring it back to Penn State. And I don't know, I was just sort of floored by how much money they made in just a couple of years. I got this number from Onward State, the Penn State blog, and says the 2 frat houses got $123,500 in drug payments.
That's interesting. I wonder how that compares to the tuition at Penn State. I bet it barely scratches the surface.
I mean, that seems like it could pay for one person's 4-year attendance at a minimum.
That's what I'm saying. You need a whole drug ring to support the tuition for 1 or 2 students.
But so PA Attorney General Dave Sunday said that this drug ring was, quote, highly profitable. And he also said it was a, quote, coordinated drug trafficking crew revolving around 2 senior members of the fraternities, other fraternity brothers, and their pledges. And yeah, as we mentioned, they were cutting and packaging cocaine as a sort of indoctrination for new pledges. And the investigation here, this is what's so funny to me. The investigation actually started when authorities were tipped off about a public Venmo payment, apparently. So these people were clearly not practicing, all of the security measures that a real cartel would do. The 2 students, as Sophia mentioned, would make this trip to Philly for, quote, large quantities. And then, they would bring them back and cut and package them. So this has been making the rounds on the internet. Apparently, one person on Instagram said, quote, his parents must be proud.
Yeah. The other thing I keep seeing too is how the business scaled up so fast, which I'm sure is true, but it's just I've never thought about talking about a drug ring in terms of its ability to scale.
It's very startup culture, right? These guys are really disrupting Penn State's drug trade.
Honestly, just to put it into perspective, it says they started at $4,000 for 100 grams. This was fall of 2023. By March of 24, it was $18,000 for 500 grams. And then they started doing 22,000 for full kilos after that.
Full kilo?
Wow.
I know.
This seems to me like it is made to be a Goodfellas or Blow style biopic at some point along the line where it's record scratch. How did I get here, you may ask, sort of situation.
Honestly. And there's been it's funny, but it's not funny. There's been so many good memes about this on the internet. My goodness.
Another great Instagram comment here was from Penn State to the State Penn. But
maybe.
So one local angle here is one of the fathers of one of these frat kids who is charged with a crime himself is a Pittsburgh-area attorney.
Only non-student or non-graduate of Penn State too, it sounds like.
Yeah, so Paul R. Robinson, who is the only non-student charged, he is a managing attorney at a Pittsburgh-based law firm. He's the father of Thomas Michael Robinson, who's also of Churchill, 23 years old, who is identified as a suspected leader in all this. And Paul, the dad, is charged with felony tampering, hindering apprehension for taking steps to conceal evidence, and that included a safe containing drugs and cash, and also obstructing the investigation. So these are pretty serious charges too. I mean, all of these folks are looking at prison time at this point. And yeah, this just is one of the latest in a long and sort of tragic list of Penn State scandals over the years.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I feel like the best thing we can say about this whole situation, that is that it at least has not come to light that someone has died in this situation, which, given the recent history of Penn State scandals, even with fraternities, that feels like an upside. Like, that is a weird silver white lining.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about this in the PG because when they were doing reporting on this, they kind of looked back at some of what's happened with Penn State Greek life. First, like outside of the drug ring stuff, Greek life at Penn State faces other accusations of hazing this year. So there's 7 counts so far. They're related to things like alcohol, physical abuse, forced sexualized behavior. That was the PG's words. I'm not really sure what that entails. And last year, there were also 7 hazing reports documented by the university. That was the highest since 2018. It looks like we're going to beat that out this year. Not a great thing to do.
And 2018 takes us back to the Tim Piazza days. He was a student who had been rushing beta, theta, I think phi, and was forced to drink a ton, fell down the stairs, became unconscious, and ultimately died. It was horrible. His family went through enormous amounts of trauma. That court case went on forever. Like, I can't fathom how Penn State is still in this situation. Like, you're supposed to have processes in place to keep these kids under control. Like, you can't have organizations that allow for stuff like this. The national organizations of these Greek life groups, like, should not be allowing this. Why don't they just shut them down? Honestly.
No, that's a question that I share.
I guess it sounds like even though one was suspended too, they're still doing things. I'm not too clear about like suspension versus it being shut down completely, but I mean,
you should not get to exist at a college if you're allowing illegal behavior to happen over and over and over again. I mean, let alone letting a student die, like in your care.
Sure.
Like that.
To be clear,
not okay.
I am absolutely with you. I am just wondering like how much people are operating kind of under the radar of Penn State and, you know, the higher Greek life national groups.
Yeah.
Nothing happens under the radar. Like, I'm sorry, frat boys are not subtle individuals. As someone who was in Greek life herself, like, I went in many a house. I saw a lot of shenanigans in my college years. I wouldn't say, like, with the exception of like underage drinking, which is its own thing, like nothing I ever witnessed would even come close to the stuff that's happening with this. And I guarantee you they were not trying that hard to hide it. The higher ups, the adults in the room were just choosing not to see it.
Yeah. Well, not for nothing, Beta Theta Pi actually was permanently banned. So we'll see if this happens with these fraternities involved in this coke ring. You know, Penn State, just ever since the unfortunate Jerry Sandusky scandal back in the day, has really not been able to get out of its own way. There were also various kind of public relations disasters around the amount of money they were spending on their stadium renovations while they were cutting some of their programs. And as all of this is happening, Penn State's first day of classes back is August 24th, next Monday. So it'll be an interesting climate on campus, certainly, when everybody gets back against the backdrop of all this news.
CityCast Pittsburgh is brought to you today by Butler County. You can make the most of the end of summer by taking a weekend trip to Butler County, Pennsylvania. Located less than an hour outside of Pittsburgh, the Butler County area is known for its small-town charm, quirky attractions, and outdoor recreation. Shop and stroll a historic Main Street, dine and relax at one of the area's breweries or wineries, and take time in nature at Moraine State Park. With cool campsites, cozy B&Bs, classic hotels, there is truly no shortage of ways to stay. Experience Butler County, PA is your guide to the perfect visit. Their website hosts an in-depth events calendar, season-by-season guides to Butler County, and its online destination guide. Visit experiencebutler.com today and start planning your next weekend adventure. Today's show is brought to you in part by UTest. With the price of everything going up and up and up, snagging any chance to make a couple extra dollars can be a good idea. And the company UTest is giving Yins an exclusive opportunity to interact with new wearable technology and contribute to its future accessibility, all while earning $50 an hour. They say all are welcome to apply, no experience necessary. You just have to be 18 years or older and based in or near Pittsburgh. The testing facility is at the Strip District, parking is provided, and you can plan to spend up to 3 hours. If that sounds exciting, get your application started. You can apply by using the link they gave us just for CityCast Pittsburgh people. It's link.utest.com/CityCast. And if you're already certain you definitely want to do this and you know someone else it might be perfect for, you can earn an additional $20 for referring them. Again, that link is link.utest.com/CityCast. All right, we're going to move on to some transit updates. People are feeling some feelings once again about e-scooters, about e-bikes. Again, kind of all of this in the backdrop of like school starting back and what that's going to mean for our communities.
Yeah, so this is kind of also a college story, at least in terms of one of the recent angles that this has taken on, in that last week, Pitt announced that the college had effectively retroactively banned all electronic scooters from campus property. So this dates back to August 1st. And Pitt said very explicitly, do not bring your e-scooter to campus. They are illegal to operate on public streets and sidewalks, and operating them can result in citations from law enforcement. So per the new University of Pittsburgh rules, any scooter that they find locked to a bike rack or parked on campus property at all can and will be impounded. And this was actually a very eyebrow-raising element for me. They will charge $100 for you to get your scooter back after the first time you're caught, and $200 the second time. And if you can't pay to spring your scooter after 90 days, Pitt will actually assume ownership. So
that is a lot for a college student.
Right. And so I got to say, just from my perspective as a Pitt adjunct, this is pretty draconian, I think. I see a lot of students on these scooters whenever I'm going to teach. I see folks using the bike lanes to drive their scooters around. And to your point, Sophia, too, I mean, Pitt has recently been advertising services that it provides for students who are food insecure. And if you're a food insecure student who uses an e-scooter to get from A to B, I'm going to guess you don't have $200 on hand to bail your scooter out of scooter jail. So these seem to me at least like a very in-demand micro-mobility solution in Pittsburgh for people who don't have cars or just don't want to drive to campus. So making this very blanket policy of like no scooters at all seems pretty interesting. But I guess it's also worth noting that Pennsylvania state law pretty heavily restricts e-scooter use. So this is actually more a symptom of like cutting back on the tolerance of these pretty sort of gray area or outright illegal vehicles that are driving around Pittsburgh.
My question, though, is like, I understand on school property, you get to decide what you want it to be, fine. But Pitt is a city campus surrounded by city roads. Like, if you kept your e-scooter, like, to, like, the bike lanes and whatnot, which I realize that's not really what the bike lanes are for, so separate issue. But, like, if you kept them to not Pitt property, would that be okay? Like, are Pitt police going to be, like, trying to police city roads, too?
Well, e-scooters aren't technically really allowed on Pittsburgh roads either.
Are they not? I've lost the thread on what is allowed on our roads and what isn't as it relates to these things.
Yeah.
Because we've had so many experiments with them, right? Like that was a big thing. We had spin scooters everywhere. They could be nice to have, but they were getting stuck in the tunnels because dummies were taking them for like joyrides through there, or people were abandoning them on sidewalks and blocking accessibility. Like there were a lot of problems with having them. But as you say, Colin, there were also like useful tools and other applications too.
Yeah, there's actually one case in this particular instance with the spin scooters where a man his family reported he was like a very enthusiastic user of the spin scooters during that 2-year pilot that ran from 2021 to 23. He actually was going home like 8:30 at night. He was riding a spin scooter without a helmet in the north side, hit a pothole and died from a brain bleed, I believe.
Oh, no.
So that came right before the pilot program ended, and I think added sort of ammunition for folks who were saying that these shouldn't have been allowed in the first place. But yeah, it's a complicated situation because I think one of the things a lot of Pittsburghers are discovering is that e-bikes and other things with motors are really useful for navigating the very steep hills we have. So It seems like PA law really doesn't allow e-scooters in the way that they're often used in Pittsburgh. The state per vehicle code actually requires scooters and personal mobility devices, they're called, to be titled, registered, and insured. So this is definitely not something I think a lot of scooter riders are doing.
I would have never considered that at all if I bought an e-scooter.
Not even a little
either.
bit.
Like, never
would not have been on my radar.
Yeah.
I feel like that's right up there with like some of the rules around like paddle boards and stuff too. Like there is like a licensing situation for like paddle boards and other like small craft that you take on Pittsburgh rivers, for example. It's just the kind of thing that like if you're thinking about like using something quickly or for fun, it doesn't even cross your mind.
No, and I think these are widely available. I mean, you can just buy one on Amazon. They're really easy to get your hands on. And for Pitt students, I think for zipping around Oakland, where the traffic, by the way, is awful, this is a micromobility solution that is useful to people. So yeah, this is a kind of growing conversation. I would also say, I feel like a lot of the sort of moral issues around e-scooter and e-bike use, they're kind of related, at least from my vantage point, to concerns about teen takeovers and teens being wild and, riding their e-bikes at high speeds and doing wheelies and stuff. But
okay, they're not dirt bikes. They're not like motorcycles. I mean, I think we've all seen like videos of the like the street bikes that run around Philly, for example, and you'll see like 30 of them in one intersection turning wheelies and like making it super dangerous. That's not what's happening here.
No, this is college students getting from A to B, but apparently doing so illegally. And Pitt is actually joining a lot of...
We could change laws if we wanted to. I'm not saying we should, but like we can.
So funny you mentioned that. PA Representative Emily Kincaid is actually trying to legalize these things. So she proposed a bill in June that's currently sitting in committee in Harrisburg. Meanwhile, as that bill awaits further consideration, other municipalities are restricting these as well. So Ambridge, McCandless, Plum, and Marshall Township have all implemented or are considering restricting the use of e-scooters and e-bikes on any municipal property. Apparently, this is to prevent park paths and stuff from getting rutted up. There were issues with people doing donuts on e-motos and things like that. But the urgency, I think, is kind of mounting around like a legislative solution here, right? Because people are using these. People want to use these. They're being sold in greater numbers. And I think personally, like as a cyclist and somebody who uses an e-bike as well, I feel like it's kind of like if somebody crashes into you on an e-bike, it's going to maybe hurt, but it's definitely not at the same level of like a Silverado driving into a pedestrian. So it seems like a little bit like there needs to be some regulation, sure, but there also needs to be some acceptance that people are going to keep using these things.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, I think it's one of those things where like policy and, the way we talk about them, the way we use them has not caught up with like just people trying stuff and doing people things, which is not always wise. Like the decisions we make on an individual level are not always all that bright. Interesting what you say about Kincaid. Actually, earlier in the week, we talked about property reassessments, and she also has a resolution potentially to try to address that, to get Pennsylvania to enact like a regular routine system for property reassessments, which would be great. That's one to follow for sure. I'm gonna flag that for myself for later.
Yeah, in the meantime, if you are riding that e-scooter around campus, just be aware that police can definitely impound your scooter. Pitt police may pull people over. I think this is going to just depend on like the appetite of the various jurisdictions. But yeah, e-scooters are, they're kind of in the hot seat right now here in Pittsburgh.
CityCast Pittsburgh is brought to you today by Butler County. You can make the most of the end of summer by taking a weekend trip to Butler County, Pennsylvania. Located less than an hour outside of Pittsburgh, the Butler County area is known for its small-town charm, quirky attractions, and outdoor recreation. Shop and stroll a historic Main Street, dine and relax at one of the area's breweries or wineries, and take time in nature at Moraine State Park. With cool campsites, cozy B&Bs, classic hotels, there is truly no shortage of ways to stay. Experience Butler County, PA is your guide to the perfect visit. Their website hosts an in-depth events calendar, season-by-season guides to Butler County, and its online destination guide. Visit experiencebutler.com today and start planning your next weekend adventure. Today's show is brought to you in part by UTest. With the price of everything going up and up and up, snagging any chance to make a couple extra dollars can be a good idea. And the company UTest is giving yins an exclusive opportunity to interact with new wearable technology and contribute to its future accessibility, all while earning $50 an hour. They say all are welcome to apply, no experience necessary. You just have to be 18 years or older and based in or near Pittsburgh. The testing facility is at the Strip District. Parking is provided, and you can plan to spend up to 3 hours. If that sounds exciting, get your application started. You can apply by using the link they gave us just for CityCast Pittsburgh people. It's link.utest.com/CityCast. And if you're already certain you definitely want to do this and you know someone else it might be perfect for, you can earn an additional $20 for referring them. Again, that link is link.utest.com/CityCast. Neighborhood shout out time. We do this every week on Fridays, on Tuesdays in our newsletter, where we let our CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors, our members, say nice things about stuff they like around the Pittsburgh region.
It is always so much fun. I learned so much about Pittsburgh from our members. Our first shout out today comes from Lisa C. She is shouting out Alma Lewis. Lisa says it's an incredibly special space in Homewood, and it features free visionary exhibitions and speaker series celebrating Black culture. I actually just checked out their website because this recommendation totally new to me. Like I said, love learning new things. Alma Lewis is actually closed, but they're reopening a new space in fall 2026. So it sounds like there's stuff to get excited about very soon.
And Josh A. would like to shout out an event that's coming up. So the Lindsay, the theater in Sewickley there, is going to show a concert film about a Bob Dylan tribute show at the Thunderbird last year. I was actually there last night. That's hilarious. But I guess it was a one-night Billy Price and Joe Grishecki endeavor. They're going to be doing the movie and then like a talk-back Q&A afterward with the director. So something to look out for. That's going to be August 30th at 1 o'clock.
So thank you again, Josh and Lisa. If you also want to share your favorite local business, nonprofit, coffee spot, coffee drink, get as specific as you want. Become a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor and send us our shout out. It'll also be featured in our newsletter. And you can join today at membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. And if you join now, reminder that you can get some special swag.
Yes, today is the last day for the special swag of it all. Thank you so much. And thank you to our newest members, Megan L., Joshua K., Claudia D., Josh A., and Sarah S. We so appreciate you investing in what we're trying to do here, keeping Sophia and Colin in rotation, keeping us talking about the news. It really does mean a lot. Now we move on to our win, our loss, our thing to know. Colin, you are the one who brought up this week's win. I had not heard about this at all, and it is very exciting.
This is a great win. I was unequivocally so happy to hear this news. Allegheny County recorded its lowest ever total of new HIV diagnoses in 2025. That was 53 total, which is a very low number given where the AIDS epidemic has been in the past. It's actually a 32% drop over 2024, and it's a 54% drop since 2016. So this is really good news. The Allegheny County Health Department told me that the county is outpacing national peers in terms of detecting the virus and preventing fatalities. And when I talked to Jillian Irwin, who's the medical director of the county health department, she shouted out that this has very much been a community effort over the years. A key player here is AIDS Free Pittsburgh, which is an initiative of the Jewish Healthcare Foundation. They've really been putting in the hours since 2015 in particular to make testing available. They've been offering PrEP, antiretroviral drugs for folks who are HIV positive. And this is, per local leaders, this is a credit really to everybody. This is also due in part to the activism and the advocacy of folks who are living with HIV, their loved ones, also the local scientific community. It's actually a great credit to some of our local researchers who have been conducting longitudinal studies on HIV. Unfortunately, some of those studies have seen funding cut. This is also coming against the backdrop of the federal government really trying to pare back things like the Ryan White HIV and AIDS program. DOJ, did a lot of damage to international programs for detecting and treating HIV. But all this is just this, it's a great sign of public health initiatives and the funding that backs them really working.
I feel like we've had a real dearth of positive healthcare news, so this is a nice one. This is good to know. Another thing to know this week, our governor, Josh Shapiro, put out an executive order on data centers. I think this is going to have wide ranging implications for projects all over the state. I think I saw the pipeline. There's like 100 projects being talked about in various stages right now.
Wow.
Many of them.
I didn't realize it was that many.
It's a lot. But like many of them, again, this is the governor talking, like probably will never break ground, won't actually come to anything, but they're like at the inquiry level on up. The two projects that I think are probably closest to us perhaps are one in Mercer and another in Greene County. They were supposed to get faster state environmental approvals, but they've been removed from that fast track list after this executive order this past week. So both sites are trying to convert brownfields into data centers, but this new order requires the centers to have local approvals in hand and also meet like some guidelines set by the state before they're allowed to be reviewed for that fast track thing. So what it did is like basically kick them out of that quick process because they have to check a bunch of boxes before they're allowed to apply for it again.
And I think along in that executive order, there's more about environmental regulations and what kind of information data centers need to give to the state. I do like that, these data centers would need local approvals, but I also wonder how much that actually means because Public Source has been doing a lot of great reporting around what's happening with a data center in Springdale. And their council did vote to approve the data center, even though there was community pushback. And counselors also did not seem super in favor for the data center. I recommend reading their reporting. They go much more in depth, but I believe the reason why the counselors voted yes was because they were worried about being sued by the data center since everything they were doing was technically by the book. So they should have gotten that approval. So yeah, I don't know. I still think a lot to figure out around data centers for sure.
And so many of these hyperscale projects, they have access to resources and money and ways to fight and try to needle their way in a way that a lot of local communities don't have the ability to argue with. Certainly, there's a ton of nuance here, but it sounds like, at least to your point, Sophia, that like the change in rules at least sets a new checklist for some of these projects. So it, at minimum, is likely to slow stuff down. It certainly isn't a stop. Like Josh Shapiro remains, what's that phrase he uses? Energy for all.
All of the above energy
all
solutions.
All of the above energy policy. That's it.
I want more clean energy. Solar panels and wind farms, please.
Yeah. Which, I mean, he says he's in favor of too. I mean, not for nothing. I think all of this is just like speaks to the fact that like Josh Shapiro is in an election year. He's running for governor right now, which I feel like not a lot of people are talking about, us included, because, I mean, his polling numbers are just so high. His
fundraising
bankroll,
numbers, huge. He
has a huge lead in fundraising dollars versus Republican Stacey Garrity. But yeah, like 2.5 months out, and we're starting to see things like this. And he says expressly in his statement, like, I have heard you that you are uncomfortable with this. So we're going to change tax as a state and do this thing. The skeptics are like, yeah, you're only doing this because it's an election year. However, the politician himself is being like, you know what? Heard. This is not what I thought it was. We're going to change. And I think that's what a lot of times we're like, can you please change your mind on something? So maybe it's just a both and situation.
Well, not to bring us down, but the loss for the week is actually also drug related. Kratom, this widely sort of quasi-legal opioid adjacent drug that's derived from the Kratom plant, it was actually listed this year as a sole cause of death for 2 people in Allegheny County. So Pennsylvania Representative Dan Frankel, who represents a part of the county, and the PA House Health Committee are calling this a very clear public health crisis. Post-Gazette had some good reporting on this as well about the dangers of metragenine, which is the drug derived from this. In particular, apparently the 7-O concentrate that's derived from the Kratom plant is particularly bad. I personally do know someone who lost a brother to a Kratom overdose, so this is definitely bad stuff. It's interesting that this is still kind of legally tolerated, even as the state won't legalize weed. City Paper covered the Cannabis Fest last week. So just weird to see this legal product that's claiming lives still on the shelves at a lot of these vape shops. I know that's been a topic of discussion over the past year. So curious to see kind of where this legislation goes and if there's any appetite for really regulating this stuff.
Yeah, we'll link in our show notes a previous episode with Colin where we talk truly much more in depth about some of these drugstore drug options. Well, and I guess like the one that we talked about the one time was boner pills. So like kind of related, kind of not.
Shout out Grant Harding for bringing to light all of the seedy ways that drugs are sold in full view of the public.
And I think that boner pill segment is for members. Another reason to sign up.
True. Yeah. It's so messy. It's so weird. But yeah, become a member today. Membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. Sophia, that was a little depressing. I know you're excited about something happening today. So
yes,
take it away.
Maybe even right now, depending on when you're listening to this. A quick bonus win. The Wienermobile is in town. The Wienermobile is going to be popping up at Dad's, the burger and hot dog place in Bloomfield. So if you want to catch the Wienermobile, show up between 10 to 1 today.
I saw it in the Strip District on Wednesday, actually. It was parked right out in front of the History Center. So love seeing the Wienermobile around. That'll bring a smile to your face on a gloomy day.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it on the Wienermobile's event listing, but Baconburg, the festival that's taking place in Southside Works, I think August 30th, they're claiming that the Wienermobile will be there too. So if today's not in your cards, you have something else coming up. That is it for today's show. CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors can stick around for trip inspiration because Colin went somewhere that he describes as Canada's Pittsburgh and had a great time and has thoughts. But that is just for our CityCast Pittsburgh neighbors, our members. One last time, you can join now at membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. You can still support us by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor and get some merch. Today is the last day. I mean, we appreciate your support any day of the week, but we want you to get good things. You can find all the details at membership.citycast.fm/Pittsburgh. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, Aaron Taylor Waldman, All the Kimonos, Bagel, Sven Lindball, and Sarah the Instrumentalist, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. Mallory Falk is our executive producer. Our interim team includes Laura Kondarajian, Laura Sitsui, and Elizabeth Kama. Adrian Gonzalez does our post-production, and I am your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more from around the city. Have a great weekend, everybody. Nobody needs to know about the things I saw in college.